Look, as I've repeatedly highlighted, the lack of action from our government when it comes to the Northern Ireland Protocol has been an absolute joke. We've had to in and fro in about Article 16 for so long now, it's ridiculous.
Prime Minister, you say that your commitment to Northern Ireland is unshakable. Well, I speak for all of my constituents today when I tell you that the protocol has betrayed us and has made us feel like foreigners in our own country. Tea and sympathy will not cut the mustard. So what is the Prime Minister actually going to do when the Prime Minister realises that the EU will do nothing to help Northern Ireland? Will the Prime Minister use all of the instruments at his disposal? Will he use, if necessary, his parliamentary majority? Will he legislate, if necessary, to remove the impediments to trade in Northern Ireland? And will he be a man of his word and allow businessmen in my constituency to bin the unnecessary documentation that he told us we could bin? Prime Minister, be the unionist we need you to be.
I utterly share the frustration of the honourable gentleman about the way the EU, in particular, the EU Commission, temporarily seem to call for you to use the protocol in such a way as to impose a border contrary to the spirit of the Good Friday Agreement, contrary to the letter of the Good Friday Agreement. And we will do everything we need to do, Mr. Speaker, whether legislatively or indeed by invoking Article 16 of the protocol, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that there is no barrier down the Irish Sea, and the honourable gentleman's business constituents, some of whom I know very well and admire very much, can continue to do business unfettered between Northern Ireland and the rest of this country.
And then, of course, when unilateral action was set to be taken, it was going to be through the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, something, of course, Liz Truss led the effort on at the time.
Does the Prime Minister agree with me in welcoming the renewed negotiations with the European Union about the Northern Ireland Protocol, that the outcome of those negotiations must reflect the objectives outlined by the Government in the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, and that this is the key to unlocking the door to political stability in Northern Ireland?
Well, I very much agree with the honourable gentleman. We need to deliver for the people of Northern Ireland. That means making sure that we have free-flowing trade east-west as well as north-south. It means making sure that the people of Northern Ireland can benefit from the same tax benefits as people in Great Britain. And it means resolving the issues over governance and regulation. Now, I would prefer to achieve that through a negotiated solution with the EU. But if we're not able to do that, we can't allow the situation to drift. We have to proceed with the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill. We need to resolve the issue of the Northern Ireland Protocol. My preference is for a negotiated solution, but it does have to deliver all of the things we set out in the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill. And what we cannot allow is for this situation to drift, because my number one priority is protecting the supremacy of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement.
Making sensible changes to the protocol. One of the ridiculous aspects of the Westminster system for me is that that protocol bill was voted through by a big majority of MPs quite a while ago now, and has then gone to the unelected Lords, and we've seen the many threats from Remainer Lords about ripping basically the protocol bill to pieces. Well, they might not have to bother, because a Sunday Times report now that the Brexit bill was actually on ice, and that hopes are rising of an EU deal. We've heard, of course, previously that Rishi Sunak, it looks like, set for a deal with the European Union, and has now apparently put the Northern Ireland Brexit Protocol Bill on ice until the new year, with private talks going ahead with Brussels. As I've highlighted time and time again, of course, it was over a year ago now that Lord Frost was negotiating with the EU and said that time was running out back then.
We hope to make some progress, but honestly the gap between us is still quite significant. But let's see where we can get to.
Will you trigger Article 16 today, Lord Frost?
We're not going to trigger Article 16 today, but Article 16 is very much on the table and has been since July.
Is that likelihood increasing, do you think? Is it becoming a closer prospect?
Well, time is running out on these talks. If we're to make progress, we need to make progress soon, and our preference is to make progress and see if we can reach an agreement.
How long does this go on for?
What would it take to not trigger Article 16?
If we can reach an agreement, a consensual agreement on the protocol that provides a sustainable solution, then that's the best way forward. That is the way of avoiding it.
How long can this go on for, Lord Cross? Sorry, how long can these talks stretch on for before you make a decision on this?
So I'm not going to give any sort of timescales or any hypotheticals. We are trying to reach agreement, and we're working very hard, and we're going to carry on trying.
Have you sought legal advice on...
Is there anything that could happen in today's talks that would change the course of progress?
So there's a significant gap between us. If that gap narrows and the Commission listen to what we have said in the command paper and look at the situation in Northern Ireland, then maybe that will help us move things forward. Thanks.
Yet, of course, Article 16 not triggered. The Sunday Times reporting it, that senior officials are saying the bill will not be returned to the Lords this year, and instead they're looking for a deal. So it seems to me that this is going to rumble on for a while now, still with no firm unilateral action from the UK. As for what Downing Street are saying about this, well, they're denying the bill has been halted, but they are saying that to give room to the negotiations, we are not asking for the whips to bring it back to the Lords now, that they want to give the negotiations the best chance. I mean, I'll remind you again just how long now these negotiations with the EU have been rumbling on. With the EU, of course, we've said all the way through, there is no renegotiation of the protocol. Also, by the way, I thought this paragraph was really quite noteworthy in the Sunday Times and really does expose a reality that many were trying to deny. And it's this, that senior figures in Brussels have told prominent British politicians that the failure of Liz Truss's plans for the economy to make it a rival to the EU has made them much better disposed to do a deal with the UK. They were worried we were going to be Singapore on Thames, and that's clearly not happening. So they former cabinet minister with close connections to the EU Commission. So there you go. Not going to be competitive, not going to be a rival, not going to be taking unilateral action on the Northern Ireland Protocol, going ahead with the protocol bill. Right now, it looks like yet more negotiations and a deal being done. Let me know what you make of that in the comments below, guys. I will keep bringing you all the very latest on this, so please do rate this video a quick thumbs up. And of course, as ever, cheers for watching.
The Northern Ireland Protocol has resulted in the ripping up of the Belfast Agreement, the principal consent and the fall of the Assembly. It has also imposed EU law on part of our country, and that law will be imposed by the European Court of Justice. Does the Minister accept you can't improve on that? You've got to remove it.
I thank the Right Honourable Gentleman for his question. Actually, I do think there is a negotiated path where you can completely change how we deal with the protocol, which would mean that it deals with the issues of governance, it deals with the issues of trade, and it deals with all the other practical issues that are causing legitimate concerns to the communities he represents.